As a young software developer, or programmer as we were called back then, I spent my time translating business requirements into whatever coding platform was the flavor of the day, and for whoever paid me to do it. I've written code for banking, insurance, education, petrochemical, property, customer relationship management, and on several coding languages and platforms through my development career. But the process has always remained the same. Like I've previously mentioned, software is built on the principles of sequence, selection, and iteration, and I'm good at coding. When I translate enough of these requirements into code, I compile my code. If the compile was successful, you could run the program and yield the fruit of your labor. For me, I'd always set myself a personal challenge of how long I could code before trying to compile. Call it ego. Once you start the compile, the coding platform would go and run through every line of code, checking for errors. It will point out every error, spelling, grammatical, poetic license, you name it. It would return a response, successful or unsuccessful. And I hated a piece of compiling software pointing out my shortcomings. It became a game between me and the vengeful compiler who didn't want to let me go home at 3 a.m. My objective was always zero issue found success. When your programs are small, the compile process takes seconds. But as you move to large enterprises where your lines of code reference other lines of code all over, coupled with my personal game of how long I could code before compiling, those times took significantly longer, sometimes minutes. I used to play this game where I wouldn't watch the compiler status indicator until it had already ended. I was afraid that by watching the process execute, I'd somehow affect the process and thereby the result. I can't explain why I felt that way, but I spent my entire coding career playing that game with my nemesis, that infernal compiler. It was only years later when I realized that I played that very same game with my deepest fears, afraid that if I looked at them too closely, I'd topple the odds against my favor, and that those fears would be proven true. And that was your introduction to personification and quantum theory. Join me next time on Let's Tune.